Welcome everyone to this meeting of Tigertales Toastmasters. I would like to welcome the Toastmaster of the day, Hassan.
Thank you, Ajita. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second meeting of the month of June. And the theme of the meeting is Happy Birthday. Birthdays are among the happiest moments in our lives. We celebrate them every year. It's an annual event. And you usually celebrate them with friends and loved ones. And this year, despite the quarantine, people managed to celebrate with their loved one by keeping the social distancing. So I hope our meeting today will be as cheerful as a birthday party. So we have today three speeches and of course our traditional table topics. As usual, also have three functionaries who are essential. They are essential to the meeting. The first one is the timer, Alacera, who will introduce his role. Alacera.
Hi everyone. I'll be the timer for our lovely meeting tonight. For the prepared speeches, the speakers will have 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, I will show the green card. At 6 minutes, I will show the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will show the red card. And the speaker will have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Alacera. But we can see your card. Okay. The second functionary is the accountant, who is today Ashutosh.
Hello everyone, good evening. I'll be your R counter for today, and I'll be looking for filler words like and long pauses in your speech, as well as repetitive phrases that you use. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Last but not the least, the grammarian, Grant.
Hello, everyone. So as a grammarian, I will be looking out for good uses of grammar, bad uses of grammar, and just in general areas of improvement related to grammar. I'm also here to introduce a word of the day, which is annual. The most common definition of annual is used as an adjective, and that definition is occurring or happening every year or once a year. To use that as in a sentence, the annual meeting is held in July every year.
Thank you, Grant. Now we are moving to our first speech, and our first speaker today is Ajita. She will be evaluated by Chitra, who will tell us a little bit about the objective of the speech. Chitra.
Hello everybody. Ajita is working on her third speech in innovative planning pathway on research and presenting. Today she is going to talk about the history and facts of biryani. I'm here to observe her engagement with the audience and her body language. Looking forward to it, Ajita. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra. I asked Ajita what's her happiest birthday memory, and she told me it was in 2018, just before she came to the US, when she celebrated her birthday at home with her family after 10 long years. So Ajita's speech will be about biryani, and the title of the speech is The Story of Biryani. The Story of Biryani, Ajita.
How do you like it? I like it spicy, are my exact words when someone asks me how I like my biryani. Some people misunderstand spicy for hot, but when I say spicy, I imagine a beautiful amalgamation of different flavors, where the rice is cooked in saffron and the meat is marinated with different flavors like cinnamon, cardamom, cloves, and pepper. Just by talking about this, my mouth started watering. Is yours too? Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. My affair with biryani started when I heard about this new dish called matka biryani, which was gaining a lot of popularity around my college 10 years ago. I was so intrigued by the name that I wanted to go and try it for myself. Matka is basically a small earthen pot which is filled with cooked meat, layered with cooked rice, semi-cooked rice, covered with a flatbread, and then put in the wood fire oven for 15 minutes to let the flavors infuse. While I ordered my biryani and waited for it to be served, some questions popped in my head. Where was biryani first invented? Who had it for the first time? Are there any different types too? But the moment the biryani was served and I opened the lid, all the flavorful aroma filled my senses and I forgot about those questions. Rest assured, I fell in love with the flavors and never even bothered about thinking of those questions again. Until recently, when I was having a home cooked plate of hot biryani, and I was thinking about what should my next speech be about. I thought, what better opportunity than talking about some of the facts of biryani. Then went back and started Googling about it. And I found this very interesting article on Metador Network, which talks about different types of biryanis and the history of it. One of the theory believes that biryani came from Persia to India with the Mughal invaders. And the word biryani is actually derived from the Persian word biryan, which means fried before cooking. Another theory claims that it is an evolved version of plof or the rice pilaf brought to India by the Macedonian Alexander the Great. And yet another theory claims that it has its local root in one of the dish prepared using rice and beef, which is mentioned in the Hindu scriptures. In the end, it really doesn't matter. Given the flavors and the different local ingredients, biryani has evolved and has become as diverse as India itself. We have a different type of biryani for each of the region. Let me now take you through some of the most famous ones. Starting from the north, we have the crown king of all the biryanis, the Lucknowi biryani. This was made in the royal kitchens of Awadh. The speciality of this biryani is that the rice is cooked and layered with the marinated chicken, covered and cooked on a low flame for a very long time. Some of the mild spices like saffron and star anise do a reasonable job of showcasing the flavors of meat rather than overpowering it, and the subtle fragrance remains as an after effect. Going to the south, we have another form of biryani, which comes from the Ambur region in Tamil Nadu. This biryani is cooked with coconut milk and red chili paste is its speciality. It is cooked in dum form for long hours and resembles the Lucknowi biryani, but the only difference being it's cooked with small rice grains. Next comes the biryani from the eastern part, which is the Kolkata biryani. The most distinguishing factor of this biryani is the addition of deep fried potatoes added to the biryani, whose initial intention was to replace the expensive meat, which resulted in a lightly flavorful and slightly sweet biryani with the flavors of nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom used to marinate the meat. Saffron and rose water were its most special ingredients. Then moving on to the west, from the Gujarat Sindh region, we have the Sindhi biryani. This is by far the most spiciest of all the biryanis. The soft meat pieces cooked with fried onions, yogurt, potatoes, and tomatoes form the base of this biryani. Kevra water is its distinct ingredient too. Lastly, we have the most famous biryani, the Hyderabadi biryani, which many of you would have heard about. Biryani traveled to Hyderabad with the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in the late 1600s. The Hyderabadi biryani is cooked with raw goat and rice together and cooked until the flavors infuse in rice. Yogurt, mint leaves, and coriander leaves add flavor to this biryani, but it's the spices and the sourness which make it very distinct. By far, I have tried most of the biryanis which I just mentioned, and biryani remains to be my favorite. We love our biryani so much in India that we even had an Indian postal stamp depicting biryani in 2017. Next time you have a chance to partake, don't forget to ask what kind it is. I can't wait to have my next plate of hot biryani, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ajita, for this mouth-watering speech. I'm definitely going to prepare biryani. I already have the Bombay spice mix. Maybe I'll try tomorrow, Friday. So now let's take a minute to give a feedback to Ajita. Mr. Timer. Thank you, Alasira. The second speech will be delivered by Tanai. And evaluating Tanai is Alex, who is introduced this project. Alex.
Thank you, Sam. Today, Tanai is working on a speech about cryptography, and his goal for today is to take all of these concepts that he's learned at this college master level and to break down the concepts so that all of us who have not studied cryptography can understand the concepts and can be a little smarter about cryptography. So that's his goal, is to make these high-level arcane academic subjects attainable for folks like us. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. I also asked Tanai his happiest birthday memory, and he told me it was when he was between the age of 5 and 12, when he would throw a big party with all his friends from school and neighboring houses. And he told me it was really fun because at that time he really took birthday so seriously. So the title of the speech is Cryptography. What is it? Cryptography, what is it? Tonight.
Hello everyone. So cryptography. What comes to your mind when you hear the word cryptography? Codes, secrets? Well, you are somewhat right. It is technically a science of making and breaking the code. But it's not a new science, if you're wondering. It's been around for hundreds of years. Secret communication techniques were used by ancient Greeks, Indians, Arab, and Roman civilizations. And one of the most famous usage of cryptography was by Julius Caesar. And I'm sure everybody has heard of him. And it's called the Caesar cipher. When Julius Caesar had anything confidential to say to anyone, he would take each letter of the message and substitute each letter of that message with a letter that is 3 positions down the alphabet. So A would become D while encrypting. And if somebody has to decrypt the message, then every D would become A and so on. I remember every time when I used to visit my cousins when I was a kid, I used to talk to my cousins in a very modified language of my own, in which we would substitute each letter of the word with something that was sounding as RF, and then we would communicate with each other in our secret language openly. Of course, the elders understood it, but they played dumb, and we thought we were some kind of intelligent beings to talk in this new language. But it was a good way to mess with our younger siblings, though. They would not understand what we were talking, and we would just laugh at them, and they would make some confusing faces. So as the technology as the technology advanced in the world, so did cryptography. Today, with modern cryptography, it is more sophisticated and almost unbreakable, at least for now. I mean, I'm looking at you, quantum computers. Modern cryptography is classified into two types. The first is called private key cryptography, and the second is called public key cryptography. The private key cryptography, as the name suggests, is like a box, and you put a message into the box, and you lock the box with a key, and then you make a copy of that key, and you give that key to someone that you want to read the message in that box. So when the person gets the box, he and she can open the box and with that key that you have given them and read the message. Now the problem is that you have to share the key with someone. And if you're not doing that in person and mailing the key, then anybody with evil intentions can just open the mail and make a copy of that key. And now that person can read all the messages that you are sending with locking that key. So that's one of the main challenges with private key cryptography. But it was heavily used in all the ancient and even as late as 19th century. And private key cryptography was widely used in World War II. The Germans had a very sophisticated code message generating machine, which they had created, which is called Enigma. And the German Navy and the army would transmit cryptic messages to its leaders. And sometimes these messages were even signed by Hitler himself. And the Allies wanted to break these codes that was generated by this complicated and sophisticated Enigma. And then, so the Allies, so the British especially, hired a lot of computer scientists and to make a machine that could break or to understand how the Enigma works. So they hired one guy who was called Alan Turing. And Turing and his colleagues studied about the cryptic messages that were sent by Enigma. And with the help of all of his colleagues, they were able to crack the Enigma code. This helped the Allies know about the German plans beforehand and act accordingly. Historians believe that Alan Turing and his colleagues have saved more than 2 million lives. In short, understanding and breaking such cryptographic systems can literally save lives. Another type of modern day cryptography is public key cryptography. And this, however, is very interesting to me. So I'll take the same analogy as a box with a message and a key. But now you have a box, you have a message, and you have two keys. One of them is public and the other one is private. So you share your public key with everyone in the world, and hence it's called a public key, of course. And then the private key is that you keep it to yourself. Now you want to send a message to your friend, but without going through the hassle of sharing the keys, mailing the keys, or transmitting the keys. So what you do is you take that person's public key and then because it's available to everyone, right? So you can take the public key and then you lock that message in that box with his public key and send that box to him. Now, the beauty of this is that the key that was used was public. So you think anybody can read it, right? But no, with some mathematical magic, only the person who has the private key can read that message in that box. So you can lock the box with the public key and only the private key can open it. This method is so widely spread and so widely used that just because of public key cryptography, this Zoom call is being able to happen securely, I mean. And every time you browse the internet, every time you see a green lock beside the Google address, It's because of public key cryptography. Are the messages that you send that you don't want the big brother to see are happening because of public key cryptography. Our privacy and digital rights are protected because of public and private key cryptography. And the sheer impact that the cryptography has and had on our lives is the reason why I love this subject.
Thank you, Tanai, for this speech. Now let's take a minute to give a feedback to Tanai. Thank you. Our first speaker of the day is Bhakti. And her evaluator is Mami, who is currently in New York, New Jersey. I don't know. Mami, what are the objectives of the speech?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Bhakti. Bhakti is working on a project called Researching and Presenting on the Presentation Mastery Pathway. Tonight, she wants me to look for the pace and the pauses she will be having during her speech. And I look forward to hearing Bhakti's speech.
Thank you, Mami. I also asked Bhakti what her happiest birthday memory. She told me it was when a small group of friends made her think they were planning someone else's birthday in which she was involved. But it was a diversion to celebrate her own birthday, which involved a lot of people she didn't expect. And she said her friends nailed everything from the flavor of the cake to the music they danced to. The title of the speech is Anime Roots. Anime Roots Bhakti.
When you think about your childhood, one of the things you associate your childhood with are cartoons. And if adults are still watching cartoons, they just have a fancier term for it called anime. What is anime? Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Anime is animation in Japanese. I understand many of the die-hard anime fans here feel offended when we call anime as Japanese cartoon, but it's true. Any form of cartoon or animation in Japan is anime. Tom and Jerry is an anime for Japanese. Frozen is an anime for Japanese. The same way Archie comics are manga for Japanese. Many people outside Japan find a difference between cartoon and anime. This difference can be found by the style used to design these cartoons as well. Also, many people associate cartoons with children and anime with adults. But the audience for anime does not only include the adults, but also children and teens. I was introduced to anime with Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. They were some of the most popular shows back then, even outside Japan. But anime was not always accessible to the rest of the world. To understand its history, let's go back to World War II. During World War II, the whole nation of Japan was mobilized. People were forced to conform to government's demands, or they paid the ultimate price. According to Frederick Short's book called The Manga World of Japanese Comic, those who failed to cooperate were punished by preventive detention and bans on writing, while those who recanted were rewarded with rehabilitation program and support from the community. Therefore, the artists who spent most of their lives criticizing the government did a turnabout and wholeheartedly supported the military. So in 1940, there were many organizations formed by cartoonists and artists, and the government used them to create comic strips which propagated their ideas. But during the same era, there was a young artist named Osamu Tezuka who released his first work named Shintaka Rajima, which in English translates to New Treasure Island. Tezuka was highly influenced by Walt Disney's animation, and many were impressed with his style of animation. It was not until he released his ultimate work called The Astro Boy that he achieved so much success that today he is known as the father of anime and manga. With Astro Boy, many recognized Tezuka's original style, and this was a new form of animation for the entire world. His characters exploded with life and emotions, and his stories would unfold themselves in hundreds of pages of a manga. Finally, in 1963, Astro Boy was broadcasted across international borders, and people were introduced to anime. The 80s was the era where several animation studios became groundbreakers and trendsetters. But the leader unquestionably is Hayao Miyazaki, who in 1985 founded Studio Ghibli. His films are now known across the world and has won numerous awards both in Japan and internationally. The most notably Oscar for Spirited Away in 2003, which I highly recommend. But the 90s was the era for anime because the exportation and broadcast for these animated series took a peak. Many fans imported discs or tapes, added their own subtitles electronically, and formed an unofficial tape exchanging club in which the membership was limited but extremely devoted. But probably the main factor for the boom of animation industry was the internet. As the quality of internet improved, so did the distribution of anime. Today, almost every streaming service has some anime content in them. It's hard to quantify the impact of anime, but a glance at today's pop culture shows anime footprint everywhere. Anime is not limited to a generation and certainly not limited to a genre. My favorite anime of all time is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which majorly falls in the fantasy thriller category. But there is immense variety of anime out there. I'm sure you can find an anime that you like, your parents might like, your children might like, your friends might like, and even your dog might like. The anime that we get in future may not have that much resemblance to what came before it. It's because the anime lives and evolves with the society that produced it and the world that savors it. P.S. I would like to ask for forgiveness if I butchered any Japanese term in this speech. Mr. Toastmasters.
Thank you, Bhakti, for this speech. It's about the anime, I think a 20 billion industry now. Now let's take a minute to give a feedback to Bhakti. Thank you, Alasira. Thank you to all our speakers. Now we move to the table topics, and this portion will be led by Deb. And I also asked Deb the same question, and she told me that her happiest birthday memory was when she turned 5 and she was giving a Minnie Mouse doll. It was in her top 3 stuffed animal with Winnie the Pooh and Fievel the Mouse. Please join me in welcoming Deb.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. This is a part of the meeting where anyone can participate, any guests, including stuffed animals, I suppose. So if you have a Winnie the Pooh, a Fievel Mousekewitz, or Minnie Mouse, they're all welcome to jump in and give it a go. But just like any fun game, there are some rules to get the hypothetical chocolate. So I will let our functionaries go ahead and tell us some of the rules, starting with our grammarian.
The first rule of table topics is that you have to use a word of the day. Once again, that word of the day is annual. It's used most commonly as an adjective, and the definition is occurring or happening every year or once a year. To use it in a sentence, the same sentence I said earlier, the annual meeting is held in July every year. So please use that word during your table topic speech.
Thank you, Grant. And our timing rules.
The second rule of the table topic is not only being able to say the word of the day, but also stay between the time frame, which is from 1 to 2. At 1 minute, you will be shown the green card. At 1.5 minutes, you will be shown the yellow card. At 2 minutes, you will be shown the red card. And then you have 30 seconds to wrap.
Thank you, Ali Sarah. Who wants to get us started? Oh, hey, Bhakti. All right. So I got some fun brain teasers for us. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Why or why not?
That is a very deep question. I never actually thought about it. I guess anything placed between 2 slices of bread counts as a sandwich. So, but is that really 2 slices of bread or not? That's the deep question. Technically, hot dogs are placed in a bun. That's what I guess. So are buns considered 2 slices of bread or not? Never thought I would ask myself these questions. So let's see. The annual Tigertales Toastmasters declares buns to be a piece of bread. So therefore that counts as 2 slices of bread. I guess the meat is placed between 2 slices of bread. So that counts as a sandwich. Therefore I declare that hot dogs are sandwiches. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Bhakti. I know that was a brain teaser. I appreciate your rolling with it. Who is next? Alex, you want to give it a go? All right, Alex. If animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Unfortunately, I think because they are like eternal toddlers, I think our pets would end up being the rudest to us. And dogs seem to have that unconditional love thing on a little bit better that cats just don't have. And most of the other pets, they're just not loud enough. But cats, as much as they love us, would definitely be the rudest, because when they're hungry and they get really mad. And I've seen dogs get sad, and I've seen them be disappointed or feel shame, but I've never seen a dog really get like annoyingly mad or rude. And so I think cats would be the rudest animals on the planet. If we had an annual ranking of rude animals, the cats would make it to the top. They'd probably be in the top 3 every year, easily. I'm trying to think of any other contenders on that list. I think some birds might just for the sheer amount that they yell, who knows what they're yelling? They could be cussing at us, who knows? But cats are definitely at the top of the list every year in the annual ranking of the world's rudest animals. Madam Table Topics Master.
I think, unfortunately, I would agree with you, as Scout loved to show his butt to all of my colleagues today. A little rude, Scout, a little rude. Okay, who's next? Teacher. All right. Chitra, what age are you most excited to get to, and why?
A good question. The age I'm really excited is 58. I really want to retire and spend my vacations over there. I don't have to wait for the annual vacation leave to come and spend my days on. And I know I would have earned a bit, so I know I don't have to earn more. I can sleep all day and nobody would question me why. Another aspect I like about being retired is you get seniors discounts as well, I heard. And maybe after this year, I'll not be able to use my student discount. So I have to go for the next discount thing, is the senior discount. Another thing I like to become, because I like to gossip around, and I know these old people's gossip around a lot in the neighborhood and they do not get judged by anybody else. So those are 3 things that I would like to be old for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra. Mr. Timer, do we have time for 1 or 2 more table topics? No? Is that no? So we do? Sorry.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Okay. I saw finger wagging and I was like, did I get in trouble? Did I go over time? Okay, who's next? Tanai. Okay, Tanai. Tanai. On a serious note, would you consider cereal soup? Why or why not?
Wow. I would not consider cereal as soup. I'm assuming when you said cereal, you meant the cereal that you put with milk and you eat that, right? Yeah. So I would not consider cereal soup. If there was any annual meeting somewhere in the world that would classify cereals as soup, I would just go there to protest, because that is not, I would consider as soup. For me, the soup has to be warm. The soup has to make you feel little fuzzy, a little full, and also when you're sick, it has to make you feel nice. Cereal doesn't do that. Cereal just tells you that your day has started and you can eat your sugar and milk. So, which is why I would not consider cereal as soup, but if somebody does, then I am ready to have a discussion with them as to why. Because in soup, you cook the ingredients together. In a cereal, you have milk that is from somewhere, and you have the cereal that is from somewhere, and then you just add. So you're not creating anything, you're just mixing two things. So I'm sorry if I offended anyone that believes in the opposite ideology, which is wrong, by the way. But if they do, then yeah, they can discuss with me on the Zoom chat afterwards. But yeah, that is my answer.
Thank you, Tanai. We'll go with one more. I saw Mommy's hand up. Do you still want to go? Awesome.
Yes, I do.
Cool. So, Mommy, share with us your favorite annual tradition.
Wow. My favorite annual tradition is the festival we call Tabaski in French, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Kabir in Arabic. It's the occasion at which, when we were younger, we had the biggest occasion of having meats on our food at home. Because during Tabaski or Eid al-Kabir, every family would slaughter a goat, a lamb, or even a cow based on the means they have in the family. So when I was younger, that was the most exciting festival we would have and tradition. We not only would have food with meats, but also it's the occasion for us to have new dresses, new clothes, and go and see family members and get what we used to call salimafo, an amount of money that the relatives would give to the kids. And I would be rich for a couple of days or a week where I'll be able to buy anything I wanted to buy. So the annual tradition I love the most. Now I don't love it anymore because I don't receive money anymore. I should give money to kids. So now I'm on the other side of the table. I'm sorry for myself, but that's what I loved a lot when I was a young boy. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your thoughtful answers. I know some of them are curveballs, so I appreciate you rolling with it. And Shadow, you are not proving the point here about rudeness here, buddy. So to get a little bit from our functionaries, was everyone within the timing limits, Sarah?
Yes.
Awesome. And did everyone use the word of the day, Grant?
Yes, not always correctly though, but that doesn't matter.
Awesome. So we will be voting, and you guys can send your votes to me. I'll write them to everyone. Or does everyone pretty much know who all spoke, or do you want me to do the list? Okay, you guys know, you got this. So I'll collect those votes and hand them over to the Toastmaster, but I am going to return control back to the Toastmaster. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Deb, for these sobering questions, and thank you to the speakers. The cornerstone of every Toastmaster meeting is the evaluation portion. And our general evaluator today is our VP, Sarah, who told me that her favorite birthday memory was when she was working at Panera Bread, and the regular customer who was impaired by a stroke made a special trip just to sing her very lowly happy birthday, and she even dropped off a card. That's nice. Please join me in welcoming Sarah.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters and guests, if there are any. As Hassan mentioned, the cornerstone of our entire Toastmasters experience is feedback. Without that, we would stay as skilled or unskilled as we were when we got here. We might get a little less nervous, but we wouldn't gain any actual tools to use when we go out there and have to talk to other humans or non-Toastmasters. We heard 3 fantastic speeches today, so our evaluators do have their work cut out for them. Just a reminder for all of our evaluators from Sarah, let's hear about the timing requirements for evaluations.
For evaluation, the evaluators will have 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, you will see the green card. At 2.5 minutes, you will see the yellow card. At 3 minutes, you will see the red one, and you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a very quick report. And as a secondary reminder, Ashutosh is still keeping track of your ahs and ums and likes and so's. There's all of mine. First, we will hear from Chitra, who was evaluating Ajita's speech. Chitra is finishing up this very week as the president of our club. She has been in the club for a year-ish now and jumped right onto the e-board, has made buckets of progress in both her speaking and leadership skills. So I'm very excited to see what she has to say about Ajita's speech today. Let's welcome Chitra.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everybody, especially Ajita. When Ajita messaged me her topic of speech, I know it was going to be exciting, and sure hell, it was exciting. I really liked how you started with a joke, and how do you like it? You like it spicy, and without the whole knowledge of the speech, it was funny, and then it was a Kickstarter for this whole speech. I really how you bought the research and presenting topic from a very personal level, and then portrayed it like how you thought when you were ordering the food and you thought what must be the history behind it, and then at the end you say it doesn't matter. And I like the transition of how you brought in your emotions and your views with the history itself. I really like that you stood for the speech so that you could have the whole view and whole table to yourself, and then talk in different positions. These are things I really appreciate about yours. The places where you could improve would have been like, there were many places where I can't see Ajita. Oh, Ajita. She left the meeting. Oh. Should I wait for her?
Maybe. She didn't just turn off her video.
She isn't here in the...
Oh no. Yeah.
Probably you can...
Sorry, Chitra. Yeah, we can skip on to the next one, and don't count any of that time there, Alicia. Sorry, friends. All right, thanks for that preview of the evaluation of Ajita's speech, which hopefully we will get to share with Ajita. If not, then, you know, give her a call later and share that with her. We'll come back to you. Up next, and now first, we are going to hear from Alex, who will be evaluating tonight's speech. Alex has been in Toastmasters longer than any of you, and longer than me. He has a ton of experience, not just in the club level. He's been an area director. He was planning the entire conference that came crashing down through no fault of his own, through coronavirus only. And he is a mentor of this club. So to get to hear feedback from someone who is a mentor for the club and has experience in every level of Toastmasters is a special treat And I'm excited to hear what Alex has to say about tonight's speech. Let's hear from Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chief Evaluator. Tanai gave us a class in how you can communicate complicated subjects at a very simple level. And the easiest way, the simplest way, well, I won't say easy or simple because it is complicated and it is very hard to do. But once you find the right metaphor and you can extend it, that is the best way to help people to understand complicated concepts in simple ways. And you got the right metaphor. You want something that you want to hide, you put it in a box, you lock it with a key. It's that simple. And being able to talk about public key and private key with that extended metaphor is definitely the best way to present this topic. Now, I'll talk about some ways that you can make that extended metaphor even stronger later in my speech, but I wanted to focus first on the fact that you found the right metaphor, which is by far the hardest part of this speaking technique. I want to talk about one way that you can make the speech stronger in terms of your introduction. That first sentence is really critical to help grab us. And your first sentence went something like, hello, so cryptography. And it was funny in the way that you presented it. And there were other places where you did really well with humor. Like you jumped in with, looking at you, quantum computers. And so there was humor throughout your speech, and it almost seemed like you were so confident that you just kind of came in with this, hello, so cryptography. And it could have even been funny that way. But with that first sentence in a Toastmasters audience, you really want to craft that a little bit more than you did. A few more opportunities, one for humor, would be the rf speech that you came up with your cousins. Give us an example of what a sentence would sound like in that fancy language that you invented. And now I'm going to transition into this metaphor, this extended metaphor that you gave us, because this is where there's the best material in terms of what you did right and the biggest opportunities to improve. So when you have an extended metaphor, the first thing you want to do is apply it to everything. Make sure that you mention that the Caesar cipher is an example of private key messaging. And then you can talk about why that is so weak. Because it's got a simple rule. You just subtract 3 from the letter. Done. And then anybody can cipher that confidential message. And that's the weakness. And then you can start to talk about the strengths of more and more advanced private key systems, like the Enigma. They had a new key every day. And that's what made it so hard to de-encrypt. And finally, extending that metaphor further, you had the perfect example sentence when you said you can lock the box with their public key, but they can only open private key. And if you had said that 3 different, I'm sure everyone in the audience would have got it. But it took me a couple seconds thinking about that sentence to get it. So extremely strong speech with extended metaphor, and you can make it stronger by using that extended metaphor for everything. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Alex, for giving us fantastic feedback for our friend Tanai. It's unfortunate his name doesn't start with F. Our final evaluator tonight, stepping in nearly at the last moment. Thank you very much, Mami, evaluating Bhakti. Mami is here as a Fulbright scholar, which is pretty amazing all on its own, and reason enough to hear what he has to say. He has successfully defended this, which is a whole lot of talking in front of a whole lot of people and convincing them that you're right. So let's hear what Mami has to say about Bhakti's wonderful speech today.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Bhakti. Your aim tonight was to teach us a lesson about history. History is an inquiry, a knowledge acquired through investigation. and you really hit the nail on the head because you were able to teach us in time and within space what is the history of anime. I really enjoyed how you started comparing from Japan, the different genre of anime and cartoons we have for different categories of individuals, young, adults, and the kids. And within time, since the 1946, I didn't capture all the date, but 1946, 1958, 85, 2003, and until today, that was really fantastic. So the history part was really captivating and very interesting. But tonight, you really wanted me to look into the pacing and the poses. Usually we have three types of paces. You have the slow one, the average, and the fast. During your speech, from my observation, you had an average pace throughout the speech. That was a kind of monotonous. You could eventually improve it by being a little bit slower on the very important words or passages you wanted to highlight, or the parts that are intellectually very significant. You would be very slow there to let people grasp and digest what you're telling in those areas. And sometimes be fast on areas that you may think not very significant, very relevant to the discourse you are sharing. So overall, you had a very nice speech that can be improved by seeing what you want to highlight, what you want the audience to pay the most attention to by slowing down a little bit. I look forward to hearing your next speech where you will integrate better pacing and poses for the audience. Thank you, Madam General Barriera. Over to you.
Thank you, Mommy. I see that Ajita is back. Welcome back, Ajita. Sorry about your power cut. Glad you made it back. We are going to jump then back to Chitra, who still has all of the qualifications I introduced her with earlier. And she is going to reevaluate and continue to evaluate Ajita's speech. Back to you, Chitra.
Thank you, Sarah. Welcome back, Ajita. There are many things I really liked in your speech. The way you started, the way you brought in a personal touch to your story, how you brought in your love and continued with researching and describing the whole journey of how India had different varieties of biryani. I really liked how you started with this joke, and I also appreciate you for standing for the speech. They were really good. I thought there would be few improvements which you could catch on the next time. I remember you saying about saffron, star anise, and I know that many of us, including me, if it was 5 days back, couldn't have related to many of those ingredients and what they meant. And if you could have shown a picture of it and how the flavor and what flavors it brings to the biryani itself, and how each biryani looks similar but different to everybody else, that would have also added intriguing effect to the audience. People would have wanted to eat it more often. So that's what something you could have put it as a presentation, or change your background on that, or pictures of you eating biryani with your friends. That's it. And in the end, you could have said, and then I'm going back to my biryani and having a spoon of it. Like how everybody wanted at the end. Like I really wanted to have biryani after you said, and I know Bhakti shared the same thought as well. So if you could have also bought in that, we would have all even look forward to eating our next biryani piece. I really liked how the whole personal story, the history, and then if biryani had emotions was you could relate your emotions with biryani was something that I really liked about it. I'm looking forward to hearing more about biryani and a biryani about from you also. Thank you, Adita.
Not to step on Ajita's or on Chitra's evaluation, but I think the best way would be to make us all the kinds of biryani and to send them to our homes. So work on that, Ajita, also. We will now hear from our fantastic functionaries who've been paying close attention to everything that we've said, whether we wanted them to or not. Let's first hear from our timer, Alasera. Please share with us your timer's report.
Everyone was on time except Alex.
Alex went over, I'm presuming. A touch. All right, up next, we have our odd counter, Ashutosh. Ashutosh, how did everybody do with their filler words today?
Today, there were a fair share of filler words in some of the sections. So for the prepared sections, Tanay had 2 Rs. In the table topics, Chitra had 3 Rs, Mami had 2 Ums. As far as evaluations go, Chitra had 6 Rs, Alex had 1 filler word. Over to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ashutosh. And Grammarian Grant, I did not choose your and Ashutosh's role based on alliteration, but I probably did subconsciously. So, Grant, please share with us your great grammarian report.
All right. Let's start with our first speaker, Ajita. So I'm going to start by saying that you used a word that I'm not used to hearing, amalgamation. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right. It's a word that's fairly rarely used, and I just wanted to highlight that it was used in your speech. Overall, you had some great descriptions of biryani that kind of evoked the taste sensations with all of your descriptions. And I didn't really encounter any incorrect uses of grammar that I'd suggest improving. Our second speaker, Tanai, I think Alex covered the gist of it. I might add that in terms of grammar, I kind of found you stumbling over your words sometimes, going back and correcting your sentence halfway through or something like that. And generally you did correct it, so there's not really any improvements or incorrect uses that I found. Like I said, just good, thorough explanations of both public and private cryptography. Then let's go to Bhakti. Good grammar overall, and there were 3 times in which you use this sentence in a sequence. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. Cartoons, or another word, are anime for Japanese. You were saying that certain things are anime for Japanese. And it kind of sounds weird from an English, an American English native's perspective here. I might say cartoons are anime in the Japanese language, or cartoons are considered anime in Japan or in Japanese. But again, great grammar overall. Let's go to the table topics. The questions that were asked often didn't really make it too easy to use the word annual. And so I'm happy to say, though, that everybody did use a word of the day. Tanai, you said, if there was any annual meetings. Again, that's just a matter of plural there, if there were any annual meetings. Alex used the word of the day twice. I just want to point that out there. And Bhakti, I think you may know how you use the word of the day. I heard from my end, the annual Tigertales Toastmaster, something, something. I didn't catch the whole sentence. I counted that as a word of the day, even though I don't think it was quite right. So your question was about hot dogs and sandwiches. I might suggest that you say something along the lines of annual hot dog eating contest or something like that. Of course, in hindsight, it's always 2020. And then when it came down to evaluations, I didn't really catch anything that I would suggest improving or anything like that. So that summarizes my grammarian's report.
Thank you, Grant. You've got double alliteration with your name already. That's fantastic. Now Sarah's last name begins with T. I really did subconsciously choose the functionaries today based on alliteration. 5 points for me, awarded. General feedback reading. I want to give also 5 points to Chitra for noticing that Ajita had left while she was giving her evaluation so that we could stop and wait for her to come back, if indeed she was going to come back, which she did. This format isn't always the easiest. I can only see one person at a time, so I appreciate when folks are able to pay more attention to who is in the meeting. We had everyone prepared for their roles, which was wonderful. I believe that we are running on time-ish, which is also great. We did start a little late. We're waiting for some people to get here, but let's face it, what else do we have going on? So with that, I'm pretty pleased with today's meeting, General Evaluator, generally pleased, and I will pass the microphone off to our, to whom? To the Toastmaster of the day. Good golly. Hassan, please take over.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the feedback. We voted for the best table topics, and we have a winner. And the winner is Mami.
Wow. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Mami.
Thank you.
So thank you all. We really had a great meeting today. We had wonderful speeches and also great table topics. Now it's time to give the floor to the, she's still present, right? Chitra.
Thank you, Hassan. I thought you will be presiding from today onwards, but then I should officially hand it over to you. So anyways, we had a good meeting, guys, and I'm hoping that everybody is looking forward to signing in for this summer speeches and finishing their goal for what they have for summer. I would, if you have, if you want to sign up for the more speeches, VP of Education Xavier will be handling it. And if there are no new members, and if they want, they can contact me at the moment right now. Other than that, I would like to hand over officially to our next president, Hassan. Let's all welcome and give him a warm welcome from the next meeting onwards. With that, I'm adjourning the meeting.